we would be very happy to say hello. I also see that Antonio is here. So Antonio is going to start the whole process.
Yes.
And he's going to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Antonio.
Yes, but you don't see me, isn't it?
I don't know why, but we do not see you.
Now you can see me now.
Raul.
You can see Raul, but you cannot see me.
Hello,
Okay.
hello.
Hello, good morning, Raul.
Hello again.
Hi, Raul. Nice to see you also, not only to hear you, but to see you also.
It's better to see each other. It's not the same to talk to.
So,
hola, Antonio.
Hola, buenos días. Good morning. So we can start now, even if we don't see me, you can hear my voice.
You can switch on, Antonio? Your camera? Can you switch on? Or
I don't know what's
it doesn't work?
No.
No.
The camera is switched on.
Camera does not work.
I don't know.
Camera does not work.
I can see myself, but I don't. I know that you don't see me.
Can you try to turn it off and turn it on just?
Yes.
To see if it works.
Possible to turn on for me.
Okay. No?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Well, I think we should start anyway, and in the meantime, I will try to arrange this.
We are only 4.
Okay.
I know. The rest?
No, we have 40
43?
participants.
43?
So
they are connected?
43, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can go ahead, Antonio.
So, thank you, Marisol. So, good morning to all. I am Antonio López Francos. I'm working at the Mediterranean Agronomic Institute of Zaragoza, CIGIAM Zaragoza. We are an intergovernmental organization working for Mediterranean cooperation in agriculture, agri-food, and rural development. First of all, thank you very much to all of you for coming to this second webinar. It's a pleasure for me to introduce it. As you may know, we are going to do from now on a series of webinars of the Pastinava project. And this time we are organizing the webinar together with the coordinators in Elgo Demeter in Greece. And we are going to debate and to talk on the topic socioeconomic performance of pastoral systems, a lost cause or an example. And for that, our colleague and Pastinava coordinator, Dr. Athanasios Ragkos, is going to present the webinar. But let me first of all let the word to Dr. Raúl Compés, who is the director of CIGIAM Zaragoza, who is going to say you a word of welcome.
Hello, morning to all of you. Thank you very much, Antonio. It's for me a real pleasure to give you some welcome words, even if we are not in presence. For me, as director of Zaragoza, it's really very important to participate at the beginning of this seminar, because we, the CIAM Zaragoza, the Spanish Institute of the CIAM, we are very concerned, very focused on every aspect related to animal production, extensive methods of livestock and so on. Of the 4 institutes of the CIAM, we are, maybe I am sure, the most specialized, the most focused on this animal production, and we participate in a lot of activities related to that. We have direct connections with the FAO. We have 2 masters focused on aspects of animal production. We participate in projects like this one, and we want to launch at the end of the next year, maybe in January 2026, a new network focused on Mediterranean livestock sustainable systems. So you can count with us for every activity related with this approach to animal production. Okay, because for us this is going to continue being one of our main fields of activity. So thank you very much for participating in this event, in this seminar, in this webinar, and I hope to meet you in person in a next one here in Zaragoza. I hope. Thank you very much, and thank you to Athanasios for being always close to us in order to launch and to participate in all these kind of activities. And Darali, it is a pleasure too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Raul. So yes, we are so involved in livestock systems, and one of the activities is the Pastinova project coordinated by Athanasios Ragkos. Now, in this webinar, Athanasios is going to discuss and introduce the topic on how to counteract some assumptions and myths that our societies and also the sectors have created around pastoral farms and farmers, pastoral farming and farmers. These myths have as every myth has a root in reality, but reality is so complex. And what Athanasios and colleagues have tried is to gather data and analyze pastoral systems to reply on some of these myths around it. So what they try to do is science to clarify complex systems and realities and build on knowledge based on evidence. So Athanasios Ragkos is an agricultural economist working as a researcher at the Agricultural Economics Research Institute of the Greek Agricultural Organization, Elgo Dimitra. And he works in economics of agricultural and livestock production, environmental economics, the multifunctional character of agriculture and extensive farming systems, project appraisal, and sustainable rural development. For the last 12 years, he has been working intensively on extensive livestock systems, especially transhumant systems, analyzing its socioeconomic role and their sustainability. And in these fields, he maintains close collaboration with scientists of relevant fields following interdisciplinary approaches, and he works closely with actors on the agri-food value chain, business, farmers, cooperatives, and producer groups, but also policymakers and regional authorities. He has taught several courses in Greek universities and has participated in more than 35 research projects, being coordinator in 5 of them. And he has published more than 90 papers in peer-reviewed journals and conference proceedings. So he has quite a good background to speak on the topic that he is going to introduce. Before starting, Athanasios, just tell you that you can make questions in the questions and answer device, so you can interact by written. But after the talk of Athanasios, we are going to have also the possibility to speak, and Marisol Darali is going to give you the word, so we can do it in an ordered way. Okay, so Athanasios, please, thank you very much for your presence, and come on, start you can start with your presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Antonio. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Raul. Thank you very much for welcoming us. And it's really important for us as a project to have such close relationship with CGM Zaragoza and all the CGM institutes. Looking forward also to organize other similar events. So once more, good morning, everyone. I will share my screen. You will have to excuse me because more or less it is the first time that I am using this platform for a presentation. So I hope that it works. You can see my screen, Marisol?
We do, yes.
Okay, this is great. So this is the second webinar of the series of webinars from Pastinova project. And we decided to have it now because we are going to present one significant part of the results that we have in one of our activities as a project. So the title is The Socioeconomic Performance of Pastoral Systems. And our philosophical question is pastoralism a lost cause, or is it an example, or is it somewhere in between? You can see here photographs of our main group responsible for the relevant activity of Pastinova. Dimitris Kordos, a PhD candidate, he has done a lot of work in this task. We have Alexandros Theodoridis, who is professor at Aristotle University, another partner of Pastinova project, and also Georgia Koutouzidou, who is also professor at the University of Western Macedonia. Both of them supervised the process of this task. And you have myself, who is presenting the outcome of this. You can see in the photos that everybody is smiling except for me. I'm the most serious person, so this is why we decided that the most serious person will do the presentation. Anyway, some very quickly, some things about the background of our project, because it will be important to know some things in the discussion afterwards. So the project has been going on for around 2.5 years. We're close to finalizing everything. It is a hectic period with a lot of things going on. We are a big partnership of 20 partners from 12 Mediterranean countries, as you can see in the map. Many of these partners and many of these countries are participating to the specific activity that we're going to present today. Just also some background information about the project, just to understand how the whole presentation is structured. So the main activity, the main idea behind the implementation of this project is to create what we call a common network on pastoral actors and VCP, value chains of pastoral products, stands for VCP. So the mission of this common network that we are building is to pool existing pastoral resources with different levels of maturity and to readapt them and transfer them in different Mediterranean regions. This means that our project is based on the existing knowledge, on the existing experiences of partners of the project and also relevant actors. What we are doing is to collect all this information, put it all together, choose the specific information, the specific, I will introduce it later, things that are that have a potential to solve existing challenges of pastoralism, and either to readapt them and make them transferable to other parts of the Mediterranean, or to upscale them into higher levels. So our basic understanding is that there are challenges in pastoralism in the Mediterranean region. Maybe in one part of the Mediterranean, there is a solution that can be adaptable to another part of the Mediterranean. And this is what we are doing through this common network. Our approach is based on the theory of living labs, living laboratories. Many of you have heard a lot of things about living labs. What we have constructed is 4 regional living labs, each one accounting for a different part of the Mediterranean. And the co-creation process within our living labs is based on the possible solutions that I referred to before, which we call innovations and business models. IBMs are the initials. Until now, we have identified more of 100 innovations and business models from all partners throughout the Mediterranean. And as you see in the graph, we have categorized them into 4 categories. The first relates to marketing and value chains, the second to the organization of value chains and products and producers. The third relates to technological and managerial IBMs, while the fourth relates to cooperation among farmers and other agents, and also in training of pastoral agents. Out of the more than 100 that we have identified, we are currently working in a co-creation process to more or less 35 IBMs. As part of our project, one of our activities relates to the analysis of the economic performance of I would say, the socioeconomic sustainability of pastoral systems. And our activity was based on the design on a farm typology for pastoral sheep farms per country. It was a big task to organize this kind of survey, because pastoral systems are very diverse. They have significant differences across the Mediterranean, And it was very difficult to decide to do this common activity based on a common typology. So what we decided is to follow let's say, a case study approach. We asked each partner to create their own typology, to describe what pastoral farm types are relevant for each area, to identify them, their main challenges, their main operations, and then to focus our research on these specific types. This means that each country has a different typology. Based on this typology, we did the whole survey. The survey was based on a questionnaire that was built specifically for this project. And we used this questionnaire to run a farm management survey in each one of the case studies in each one of the countries. We chose a representative sheep farms from each farm type out of the farm typology that we created. And partners visited farms. We provided specific guidelines. Partners had the discussions, interviews, in-depth interviews with farmers. They collected technical and economic data that were necessary for our socioeconomic analysis, and also other information that was important to understand the background of each area, of each typology. Using the data that we acquired from this survey, we ran a technical and economic analysis. I'm going to talk about it in the following slide. In Pastinova, 7 countries were involved in this task. And you see in the bottom part of the slide which countries and which areas. So we have 3 areas on islands. In Italy, we have Sardinia. In Cyprus, we have the whole island. And in France, we have Corsica. And then in 4 other countries, we have inland areas. So in Turkey, it was the area of Adana. In Algeria, the area of Setif region. In Croatia, Istria region. And in Greece, we collected data from farmers from the central part of the country. So I refer to a technical and economic analysis. The technical and economic analysis, those of us who are agricultural economists, is the basis for all kinds of analysis. It is descriptive, but in the last few years, we do not like so much descriptive methods. We tend to do things that are, more fancy, based on models. But at the end, our experience and our work during the last 20 years shows that indeed technical and economic analysis shows results that of course they can be credible if they are approached correctly. And second and most important, they provide a detailed image of the economic performance of farms, social and economic performance. So these are just a little theoretical things that in each technical and economic analysis, we present expenses and also revenues by input or by task. And this method can provide the ground for initial comparisons between crops, livestock activities, and different farm typologies. We calculate financial results. All of these financial results are indicators of economic performance. From our research within Pastinova, we have collected a lot of data, and to be honest, it was a challenge to decide how exactly we were going to present them. So as agricultural economists, we have a lot of tables, we have a lot of numbers per country, per farm typology, per type of cost, per type of revenue. And we wanted to find a nice way to present them in order to deliver results which are understandable and that can have an impact. So what we decided to do for this presentation, but also in general for in the future activities until the end of Pastinova, was to organize our data in order to respond to some of the questions that can be posed by agents, by external or internal agents of pastoralism. In our experience, working in Greece, our group, but also through the exchanges that we have with our partners, we have identified that there are some, I would say, lingering, persistent questions and persistent maybe criticism regarding the operation of pastoral systems. We are listening that pastoral farms are small and unproductive. A big discussion in Greece, but also in other countries, refer to subsidies. I don't like the word subsidies. In the EU, they are called income support for quite some time now. But many people in the everyday debate are still using the word subsidies, and this is why we're using it also in quotation marks. So discussion is that pastoral farmers live off subsidies. In the last few years also, we are witnessing the high increase in feeding costs, and many livestock systems are receiving the criticism that under these circumstances, they're not viable anymore. Another big discussion relates to who is working on these pastoral farms, and especially the role of salaried shepherds who come to cover the gap that is left by the lack of the reproduction in pastoral farms. And last but not least, a general, I would also say, criticism that many people say that it is not possible to live off livestock pastoralism. And we decided to follow the very nice approach of a very well-known TV show. I hope that many of you are familiar with this, The Mythbusters. For those of you who are not familiar, these are two guys who take some, let's say, some myths or some realities, I don't know. They test them, and finally they provide discrete, specific evidence if this myth is a myth or if it is a reality. And this is the approach that we decided to follow in this presentation. So the first myth or reality. Many people say that it is not possible to live off livestock pastoralism. It's not a profitable activity, and it's not relevant, it's not feasible to live a family out of pastoralism. Here, in this graph, you see some results, some economic results from the 7 participating countries. We have calculated very quickly, I will say, the gross revenues, the green columns, which show how much money enters the pocket of a livestock farmer, of a pastoral farmer. We have the second column, the orange one, which represents the total expenses of the farm. The fourth is the net profit. The net profit is the difference between the gross revenue and the total expenses, while the third is the farm income, which shows how much the inputs that are used by the farmer are actually remunerated. So you will all notice that the red column is almost in all cases negative. It's not negative in Croatia, and it's borderline positive in Greece. The net profit is an indicator that shows if a farm is profitable under market conditions. So we view the farm as an economic unit, as an enterprise, and we see if it is viable in the course of time. When I was a student, our professor used to say that if the profit is below zero, if the net profit is below zero, the farm operation is not viable. We see also that the farm income, which reflects, I would say, the livelihoods of the farmers, is positive in almost all cases, except in Turkey, as you will see. So what comes first in the eye of who is seeing this graph is that there is a very significant diversity in the economic performance between countries and case studies. So we take the example of Croatia with very high gross revenues, high expenses as well. We also have the example of Algeria, which is quite high in both terms. And then we have other case studies, like in Turkey, like in Greece, a lot of others. which are much lower. So I think that the most important thing that we can keep from this is three things. First of all, diversity of production systems. The second is that if we view farms as economic units, they are not performing so well, even with the economic the income support. And the third is that the farm income shows that the livelihoods of farms can be, let's say, a positive sign for the future. Let's have, however, also a look at this graph. This graph shows two things which are also important in farm economics. The first is the return to labor. You see it in the green columns, and it shows if it is good, if it is profitable for a person to be working on a farm. And you will see that in at least 2 or 3 case studies, it's quite good, this return to labor. And you will also see the capital return, which in most cases is very, very, very low. So if we have a look at this, we understand that as an economic activity, the farm, let's say the farming activity is not quite profitable. Let's move on to the following slides, however, and delve deeper into these findings. So, a common criticism. We hear it in Greece a lot of times, that pastoral farms are small, they're not productive. What do you want? Why are you dealing with these people? Why are you dealing with these farms? About productivity, I would like to ask you to have a look at this graph. The blue columns, they show the gross revenues. They show it's also the same that we saw in the previous slide. How much money goes in the pocket of each farmer. And here you will see that productivity in most cases is not very low. And also the average size. You will see that in all cases, the average size in the green dots is at least 400 ewes. So it's not negligible. It's not a small farm that can be neglected. And you also see, and this is interesting to notice, that the milk yields, I am leaving out Algeria and Turkey in this point, because in both cases, these farms are meat, not dairy. So I am focusing only on the EU part of our analysis. So you will see that milk yields are more or less around 100 to 150 kilograms per ewe. You will see, and this, I think that this is evident on this slide, that milk yield is not directly linked to gross revenues, to the economic performance. So is productivity really the catch? Is it that if I produce more milk, I will have more money in my pocket? This graph shows that it is not important. Let's see if there are some other ways to increase the productivity of the farms. And here comes some examples of IBM's, innovations and business models, that we are currently working on in the co-creation process of Pastinova. So you will see in the bottom 3 photos are from Corsica, from Cyprus, and for Greece, and they concern cheese. In Corsica and also in Greece, people are trying to increase the economic performance of farms by trying to secure higher prices for dairy products, and also this means also for milk. I have also included Cyprus, which is a very specific case, because in Cyprus, actually, everybody's talking about their famous PDO cheese, halloumi. Many of you have heard of halloumi. And halloumi is providing an extremely high push in the sheep and goat sector. So it gives an opportunity to all farms, including pastoral farms, to increase their productivity in terms of economic performance. In Croatia, we have a slightly different approach. Croatian people in the region of Istria, they are working consistently for the inclusion of pastoralism in the tourism product of the area. So they are strengthening the links between tourism, which is very vibrant in Istria, and pastoral production. And what are they investing on? They are investing on cheese production to increase the added value of the cheese that they produce, and also in the gastronomic valorization of their pastoral animals, sheep, goats, cattle, and also donkeys. They're doing a great job. You can see a very nice photo of how these pastoral animals can be used for high gastronomy and for the inclusion, for the higher acknowledgement of the pastoral activity in the area. And these are all just examples of how productivity can be surpassed as a concept and really focus on the valorization rather than the productivity itself. The third important issue, subsidies. Have a look, please, at this graph. The orange part is the part of the gross margin that comes from subsidies. Gross margin is what is left in the pocket of farmers after they cover for their fixed costs. You will see that subsidies stand for a very small part of the gross margin of the income. Sorry, I will not go there directly, but I can tell you that, for example, in many crops in Greece, for example, cotton, 75% of the income of farmers comes from subsidies. Here, you will see that it is much different. Living outside Algeria, because in Algeria we did not have any reports on subsidies, so all the income comes from markets. In all other case studies, it is a very, very small part of the income. So I think it is not really fair to have a discussion about the pastoral farmers being dependent on income support and on subsidies. Here also you will see, however, another thing that is important. I am returning to the net profit, the thing that we saw in the first slide. You see that in all cases, it is negative if we leave out the subsidies, while the farm income is sometimes positive, but sometimes close to zero if we leave off subsidies. This graph shows that even though subsidies are not as high as we think as they are, as we like to say in the policy debate, their contribution to the livelihood of the farmers is very, very crucial. So instead of speaking about subsidies as a, let's say, as an end cause for farmers, we should see them as a small tool to sustain their livelihoods and secure their continuation. However, what is important to see is that other things in policy are important, not subsidies. And sometimes the discussion about subsidies disorients the discussion. You will see, this is a photo that I had from an EU document from the EU CAP network. It was issued this period last year, the importance of mountain development in the EU. This is I think, 4-page document. And in 4 pages, we saw only once the word pastoral or pastoralism. So in 4 pages of discussion about the importance of mountain development, there was only one reference to pastoralism. And this shows how much pastoralism is indeed neglected in the discussion, in the policy debate. This is something that merits attention. Also, we have the eco schemes. Many of you have heard about the eco schemes. It's the new tool of the Common Agricultural Policy to increase the green performance of the policy. These eco schemes have been introduced in many countries, but an analysis that we are actually doing now in Pastinova with Marisol Darali, my good colleague, shows that there are many eco schemes in the EU, some of them also in the Mediterranean. Many of them refer to pastoralism and especially on grazing, but the eco schemes are introduced not as a means to support pastoralism because of their many contributions, but to support rangelands themselves. So pastoral systems are viewed as a way to protect grasslands rather than a vibrant system that merits attention. And this shows how much neglected is the pastoral profession in the policy domain. In Pastinova, these are only two examples of the IBMs that we are considering. We have the example of the agri-environmental agreements in Italy, which is a means of putting all actors together to agree to produce environmental goods and to take some income support from CAP measures, and also new ways to organize silvopastoral agents in the island of Corsica. So organizational ways to increase the impact, to increase, let's say, the usability of available policies, and also to increase the voices of pastoral actors when it comes to policy and when it comes to using the measures of policy. Last but not least, I will do this in a haste. Higher feed costs are a disaster. In the last few years, especially after the COVID, we have seen a very, very big increase in cost production. However, have a look at this graph, please. The feeding costs are quite low in all of the 7 case study areas that we are considering. You can see that they stand for, in most cases, they stand for 30, maximum 40%, which is low. I will explain why. And also you will see another important thing, that the fixed costs in these pastoral systems are quite low, very low. In most cases, they stand for less than 10% of total expenses. In the bottom part, this is a table for a previous research that we did in Greece in 2010, before the economic crisis, and repeated it in 2014 during the economic crisis. What we see is that feedstuff expenses and, let's say, feeding expenses are quite big. They are around 30% of total expenses. But most important is that fixed capital in these in intensive systems that we consider stand for around 1/3 of the total production expenses. And this is very important. This is very important for us. This is very important to show that pastoral farms have, let's say, a very good advantage in terms of fixed costs. However, important challenges are there which relate to feeding costs. Securing the feed autonomy of these systems in view of the climate change that is very, very harsh in many parts of the Mediterranean. And this relates very, very closely to the management of rangelands, securing the access of pastoral farmers to land, and securing the productivity and the sustainable use of land. We are just including this example from Greece, a recent study that we had in the last few years, and we saw that while the rangeland management is not optimal, pastoral farmers will be declining. We will need to increase the feeding efficiency of systems. I'm not talking about the feed efficiency at the animal level, but rather to developing systems that will secure the feeding autonomy of pastoral systems. Here are just some examples from our innovations and business models. In Algeria and also in Tunisia, our partners are doing a lot of work in using the byproducts of crops for feeding animals. In Algeria specifically, they have a very nice IBM that relates to hydroponic production of barley to secure feed autonomy. While in Sardinia, our partners are working in the productivity of rangelands in increasing the level of efficient management of rangelands to secure productivity. I think that I have been speaking a lot, so also I will pass it very quickly. Here we see that in pastoral systems, family labor is a very important part of the total labor requirements. When there are problems in the reproduction of farms, there is a gap, a huge gap that needs to be covered by hired workers. And you can see in the orange part of the column that the hired labor is it differs significantly between countries, and this also has a severe impact in terms of the return to labor, in terms of the productivity of labor. So also our previous research has shown that family labor in these pastoral farms is more productive than hired labor. So two things can be derived from here. The first is to provide young people, young family members, the opportunity and the will to remain in the farm and not leave. And this relates to making pastoralism attractive for family members. We need several pastoral systems that are evolving, that are being modernized, and that cover the requirements of the people within the system. I will add a brief discussion about this at the end of the presentation. And also an important thing that we are developing as in our co-creation process in Pastinova is what we call shepherd schools. In many Pastinova countries, in Italy, of course, mainly in Spain and in France, but also in Italy, in Morocco, in other countries as well, the shepherd profession is already or in the process of being formalized in training activities. So training activities are being developed in order to prepare pastoral people to be involved in the profession, remain in the profession, and continue its activity. Summarizing, there is a discussion about these farms being old and being unproductive. However, productivity, we saw that productivity cannot always be the catch. Instead, we are talking about increasing the quality of products, generating creative marketing ideas, and allowing pastoral agents to, let's say, to develop their potential, to increase their creativity, and to renew the image of pastoral products in the markets. Instead of having a discussion about the subsidies, the income support that pastoral farmers are having, our view should rather be to create a more enabling framework and to provide equal opportunities to pastoral farmers compared to other livestock activities. The discussion should be focused more on a structural level to resolve issues, bottlenecks of policies that create obstacles to pastoral farmers when it comes to showing their potential. When it comes to feed costs and the discussion about the economic impact of the increasing feeding costs, local solutions should be in the forefront. The valorization of byproducts, the efficient management and use of rangelands, access to land, these are very important and lingering issues that should be considered every time in this discussion. It's not always a matter of having of decreasing the feed costs, but rather to increase the autonomy in terms of feeding, and also the feed autonomy. And also always to remember that the cost benefit that pastoral farms have in terms of reduced fixed cost is a very nice example also for other systems to become more resilient in terms of market challenges. Fourth, who needs salaried shepherds? What we need, on the other hand, is to have passionate, happy, and experienced people in the pastoral profession. We need new roles for all pastoral people, for women, for young people, for people who are not quite well represented even within the pastoral domain. We need to provide them new roles, and we need more inclusive societies to understand that all people in the pastoral systems have a role to play, and this can be very creative and very productive. And last but not least, it is possible to live off livestock pastoralism. We have seen examples of pastoral systems that are that can have a good level of economic performance. What we are proposing and what we are working on is to accept and promote new activities, new products, new customers, more species, not only to focus on sheep and goats and cattle as we usually do. There are a lot of species reared in pastoral systems, and we need to focus a lot on them and on their valorization. This is very close to the end of my presentation. My good friend Michele Nori, he wasn't able to be here today with us, he once told me that, have a look, pastoral photos are always black and white. This is the image that many people have about pastoralism. This is the image that many of us who are working on pastoralism sometimes have. Black and white, rustic photos, old things that belong to the past. This is what my grandfather used to do, but we need to modernize, and so pastoralism is not relevant to the modernization process. What we need to do in terms of increasing the economic performance is to make a transition towards this, not black and white, full color photos with people who are involved, people who are doing what they like, people who want to remain in the profession because they like it and because it comes up to their expectations. New products, gastronomic valorization, more women, more activities, more young people. This can be the solution. And this is the innovations and the business models that most of the activities of PastInnova are focusing on. And closing this presentation, we need to accept, we need to understand that pastoral systems are evolving. They, there is a big discussion that, people, societies are expecting things from pastoralism. And in many cases, what we have seen is that there is not much acceptability for change. So what we want, us, people who are living in the cities, we sometimes want pastoral people to remain in the past, to maintain an old way of living, traditional, without understanding whether they accept to live like this or not. So a vision, a policy also vision, should be to have pastoral systems, pastoral areas, which come up to the expectations of their actual users, pastoral people. Also, when it comes to policy making, we need informed and evidence-based opinions. We hear a lot of things about pastoral in the pastoral systems. Most of these are, like judgment calls. We think that we know something, but in fact, we require a lot of evidence-based research and participatory research to understand what is actually going on and what the people involved in the profession are doing. We need stronger and rational voices in the policy debate with regards to pastoralism. It's not only about subsidies. This is only a small part. There are very important policy obstacles that are not allowing pastoral people to express their potential. And this is what we need to focus on. We need higher information flows, deeper understanding of what pastoral people want and need. And finally, we need to understand that there is a huge diversity of pastoral farm types, species in these farms, different products, different practices, different activities, all relating to the pastoral domain. So, in many cases, I am hearing that this is pastoral, this is not pastoral. They have not a pastoral identity. They need to change this. No. What we understand from our analysis is that pastoral systems are evolving, pastoral systems are diversifying, pastoral people are finding ways to increase their livelihood. And this is what we need to keep into mind. Less generalizations, more context-related analysis, and specific solutions for specific farm types, for specific pastoral people. Thank you very much for being here. This is the last slide. This is our group, the different people that have contributed by providing us data and information from their national case studies. I would like to thank everyone for their contribution, and thank you all for your attention.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thanos, for this presentation. And please feel free to make questions through the questions and answer device. Please don't do it through the chat, because then everything will be mixed. Or also raise your hand and you can also say your questions or comments by spoken.
So, should we start from people who are raising hands, and then we go to the chat? Jean-Paul, good morning.
No,
I think you're the first.
thank you for your presentation. This was very clear, and for me, it was interesting to compare the results we have in Corsica with the results we had. We already, I already heard you in Baena months ago. So I just would like to have some comments on the Corsican results. I think it's interesting if everybody can add the suggestion. So we made a diagnosis of the situation of the sheep sector, sheep and goat, but also mainly sheep sector in Corsica. And in the results you presented, you give many results as outputs per ewe. You understand? So, and we see that, and I agree with you that very often the income per ewe is high, is good, but the main difference between, for instance, Sardinia and Corsica is that the number of ewe per farm is very low. This was one point. So there is a lack of structuration of the farms, and we see in other tables you presented that the level of investment is very low. So many farms have are not strong enough to have attractive income. Of course, in the classification, in the typology of sheep farm in Corsica, we have several, perhaps 10% of the farms who have big flocks, and they have high feed costs, and etc., etc. And these farms have very few pastoral components. Very often they grow grass, they have irrigation and maize and so on, and they don't practice transhumance, and they have salaries, but it's a minority. Most of them are not enough structured, so it is now a big problem, and the future of sheep activity or dairy sheep activity is questioned, because there are very few young farmers to settle, because it would require most investment. And the second thing, you have insisted on the fact, and you are true, that the subsidies are very important to have an income. Most of the income, especially for goats, but also for sheep, comes from the subsidies. This is a very important point. Of course, it's different from sheep meat, for instance, where the import, or for cotton, what you explained. But this gives good explanation of the situation of the sheep sector. I only think that it would be interesting to have a table on the income at the farm level, the total income at the farm level. This is my main comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jean-Paul. Thanos, do you want to have some comments on the on the comments of Jean
No,
Paul?
no. Let's. I think we should better hear from everyone, and if there are specific questions, we can discuss on them. I don't know, Jean Paul, if you would like to discuss something, or if we can. Okay. Thank you so much. Both observations, both types of observations, very important. Thank you so. Thank you for this.
Antonio, I think you are muted. The
Ah,
next
sorry.
person is Sergio.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Thanos. Just a few questions. I was guessing what is behind capital expenses in your analysis. So these were very high fees, much more than feeding fees. So I guess I'm asking myself what it is behind. And then I'm surprised the negative funded. So the revenues are negative for many countries. I'm asking myself, is that related to the fact that it's only 1 year analysis, or how do you explain this fact? And if is it a trend? How do you explain? Can this explain the fact that there is kind of a deactivation of this kind of systems? And eventually, if these data relate to the fact that in the analysis, which kind of pastoral system have been described in the analysis, it is the same, more or less the same types of farms in all the countries, or there are specific diversity which can explain this? And then with regard to subsidies, so it's quite interesting, your analysis, and so that shows that finally subsidies are not really a big part, or not really benefiting maybe the more pastoral orientated systems. And finally, just if you have some updates on what is could be a way in the policy debate on ways eventually to combine production, labor, and socio-environmental performances in the way to subsidize this fund pastoralism or pastoral system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergio. I missed your first question. It was 5. Sorry, I got confused. I missed your first.
The first one was on capital expenses, which were very high in percentage,
so,
like 70%.
Yes,
was
yes.
Quite,
in many cases, they were very high. So capital expenses involve all the expenses that relate not to labor and not to land, just to make it a little clearer. So a huge part is feeding costs. Another part is the fixed costs that I referred to, and the rest relates to all the purchased inputs that relate to, let's say, animal health, vaccines, drugs, and so on. Other also inputs for those who are cultivating land, and all other kinds of inputs, all the other things that people are spending money in order to buy and use in the farms. This can be, for example, irrigation fees, or access to electricity, or anything else that can be categorized as not labor and not land, just to give it like a scheme. So about your second question, just to make a clarification, it's not the revenues that are negative, it's the net profit that is negative. And the net profit is an indicator of economic performance when out of all the revenues, we subtract all the costs, all the expenses. This also includes the expenses that are not actually paid. For instance, in our analysis, the remuneration of family labor, which is not paid, is considered as an expense. We use this indicator to show how the economic performance of a farm can be evaluated if it was considered like, let's say, a single economic unit, like an enterprise. And you're totally right that it is negative. So, however, in the farming sector, you will see that almost all the analysis of all the sectors in livestock and in crop, they provide negative net profits. This is something that is being witnessed in the European Union in many of the last years, in crop production, in livestock production, everywhere. So this is why this is one of the basic arguments that point towards the continuation of income support, of the subsidies, if I may say. So this is a very common finding, and to be honest, in many of our crop farms here in Greece, we have seen much worse economic results than the ones that we saw here for the pastoral farms. So out of bad outcomes, this is the least bad. However, let me make it very clear, when we are talking about the livelihoods of pastoral families, and we do not consider farms as economic units, then we should take into account more, I would say, the farm income as the most important economic result. If the farm income was negative, then it would be, I would say, a disaster. We will need very, very practical, measures. But now we saw that in most case studies, it was quite satisfactory, except for one or two cases, I suppose. And this is why we try to show what's going on in each country, what are the IBMs, the innovations and business models behind each case study that relate to achieving this kind of results. About your third question. So each country provided their own typology. For some countries, for instance, in Algeria, they decided that size was the best criterion to categorize the farms. So our Algerian partners provided small, medium, and large-sized farms based on the number of animals. In Greece, we had a typology that was different. It was based on the way of livestock movements, sedentary or transhuman, because in our case study area, it was very important to distinguish between the two types. Anyway, in other countries, there was a different categorization based on market orientation. Farms who are producing cheese on farms, or farms who are selling all the milk to industries. We decided to follow this because it was the most, I would say, we wanted to make it context specific. We wouldn't want to impose to partners to do an analysis based on size, for example, which is the most common way, while this would not be relevant to their case study. And this is why we made aggregates out of the small national typologies. About the comment you had about the subsidies also, I would like to repeat that subsidies are a small part of the whole income, and at the same time, they are a very crucial part of the whole income. It's the part of the income that makes a difference. That secures the livelihood. It's very crucial, but we can definitely not say that pastoral farmers are just waiting for the subsidies, are keeping this activity because of the subsidy. Pastoral farmers are doing a lot of things, a lot of products, a lot of activities, a lot of livelihoods, but a crucial part for all this is also the subsidy. And about your last question about the labor and environmental performance of farms, this is a very interesting approach. Now we are in the process of designing the new CAP after 2027. And actually in Brussels now, there are a lot of discussions about how we can increase at the same time the environmental and social, I would say, performance of the common agricultural policy. Thank you, Sergio. A very, very nice comments.
Thank you for your answer.
Khalid?
Yes. Khaled, can you?
Yes, sir.
Khaled Abbas, can you make your micro on and make your question?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Thanos, for this very clear presentation and very interesting. I would like to put some comments or some adds to Algerian case study. Because in Algeria, as you know, we have a very little approach to the classic pastoral systems. Here we have pastoralism is very strongly linked to cereal production. Then to find some farms that are orientated to pastoralism was very difficult for us. Then, in this context, you know that in our case, I would like to show you that sheep production is very regressing now. From 5 or 6 years ago, we are facing a very big problem to sheep pastoralism in Algeria, in Sétif mainly, because of a disequilibrium between subsidies given to animals and cereals. Cereals are very strongly subsidized in Algeria. And we give now the equivalent of more than 400 euros per quintal, the price that pay the state to farmers. Then sheep is traditionally sheep plays the role of a little bank to the farmers. They keep sheep to have money every time. To when they need money, they sell. The system is very opportunistic, and then now we have a big problem because the mobility is very restricted, because farms are being more and more little size. And then accessing to pastures is being very difficult. Then people are keeping a little sheep, herd of sheep, only to. Now we can consider that it is really a social need and a little bit bank need, but not really a very it kept as a revenue, really a revenue production. It's not for, it is equilibrium. The revenue is, there is a transfer between cereal to animals in terms of revenue. Now this year we have the price of meat is very progressing, and there is a return to sheep production by young people, but it's not really a significant orientation. Another comment or another observation on our case study, that we have for milk production, cow milk production, the state give a good price, but for meat it is free market. It is not the state who buy the meat. The meat is a free market, and then there is a lot of insecurity on pastoralism now in terms of pricing. The state give only subsidies to sheep and goat, only to the very little size farmers, to keep them in activity and to support them as a social politic of the state, not as a good precursor to sustainable development of this activity. This is all what I can give you as remark, and it is to take in account in comparing with the other case studies that are mainly more oriented on pastoralism. Thank you.
Khalid, thank you very much for these clarifications and for your comments. Very interesting, and also appreciate the fact that you provided a very nice, overview of the livestock production actually in force. And I have kept two specific notes on what you said. The first is that you said that crops are very subsidized in Algeria, very much more than animals. And this is something that is going on also in the European Union. And even more, it was witnessed in previous decades in the European Union, in Greece and also in other countries. So a lot of subsidies in crops, very few subsidies in livestock production, and many people chose to stop livestock production because of this. They could make a living easier through crop production. And we had a loss of livestock farms because of these subsidies. So more or less, I understand that this is a common trend compared to some years ago in the European Union. And also, I have noted the word that you used, the insecurity, which I think is a key word for everyone in the livestock sector and in the pastoral sector in particular. There is a lot of insecurity with regards to product prices and product outlets. So this is why we are emphasizing a lot on finding new ways, creative ways, local solutions to support the marketing, the prices, and not, let's say, to expose pastoral farmers to all these huge market conditions, which are very intensive and very competitive. If we succeed to do this, it will be much better for pastoral people to secure their livelihood. If we continue, let's say, forcing them to enter competitive markets, it will be a failure because they cannot stand in this kind of circumstances.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Khalid. So, are there any other questions, or should we move on to the chat?
Please, Thanos, I can only add that, for example, from COVID pandemic 2022 to now, the price of meat, for example, of sheep meat, has tripled. Yes, tripled. Yes, we have 1,000 dinars in 2020, and now it is 3,000 dinars. That it is very, very, very expensive, and it is a good opportunity for young people, but in the other side, the climatic change on pastures, the effect of climatic change on pastures, on resource availability is very hard. Then young people cannot go on because the concentrates are very also the price of concentrate is going also very quickly ahead. Then the equation is very complicated for seeing that pastoralism can have a good future or not.
Thank you very much, Khalid.
Okay, thank you, Khaled. I think we are going to have a last question by Francesca Passetti, and then I will make a little summary of the questions made in the chat so that you can reply also, Thanos. So, Francesca, please, can you speak?
Thank you. I cannot put my camera. I don't know why. I wanted to thank Thanos for your excellent presentation. And I think that to compare the different Mediterranean countries is very difficult because of the very different policy concerning pastoralism. As the colleague Abbas Khaled has just commented, you probably all know that recently, or quite recent, not so recently, Algeria's policy has been a total elimination of pastoralism and a sedentarization of all pastoralists. And this in a Mediterranean country where we all know the importance of mobile pastoralism for soil conservation or the other reasons. So this was just a little input, and I want to thank Mr. Khaled Abbas for his input, because there is really a great difference between all the Mediterranean countries.
Okay. Thank you, Francesca.
And I also, yeah, and I all imagine that you all know the publication of Michele Nori concerning pastoralism and the CAP, no, the effect of CAP in all European countries on pastoralists. I cannot write. I wanted to put it in the chat, but I'm not allowed to write. I don't know why.
I agree with you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Francesca, for this comment. And I think policies are very important, not only for subsidies, but also for facilitating or enabling pastoral people to continue with their activity. We have had a previous webinar on, for example, on legislation over cheese making, which was quite interesting, but there's also a lot of challenges around spaces management, land management, conservation of nature. It's a huge thing of different areas of policy that affects pastoralism. But now let's focus also in the questions on the chat that are maybe more in the micro sphere, in the micro economic analysis of these systems. And one of the questions that I share also with Pasquale Arca is that how farm income is calculated and how net income is calculated, because I think here there's a very important matter, because for someone who is well, a normal citizen educated in the market economy, as everybody of us we are inside the market economy, if an enterprise gives a negative net profit, it is going to close, no? But pastoral people and peasants in general still subsists even if their net profit is negative. So what is the exact calculation of net profit and the exact concept of farm income, which means, or which seems, I think, to be the most important for the farmers?
So I didn't put the definitions of this in order to save some time, but I think it's necessary to do it. So partially, I already explained this in the discussion with Sergio, but sorry for repeating. So the main economic result is net profit. Net profit is all the revenues, including subsidies, minus all the expenses. And this is the net profit. And theory says that an economic unit will continue in the future if the net profit is positive. So we see here that almost all farms have negative net profit. And we witness it not only in pastoralism, but also in almost all other livestock activities, and in most of crop farms as well, negative net profit. And the question is, why are we going against the theory? The theory says that they should close if they're negative. And one of the things that we are doing is that maybe farms should not always be considered as economic units, but like I would say, family farms. There is a whole theory. We can have another webinar about family farms anyway. And this is why the EU and we as agricultural economists are using more frequently the farm family income, FFI, as an indicator of economic performance. Theory says that FFI shows the remuneration of inputs that are used and owned by the farm. And this is the economic result. The farm income is the economic result that reflects the actual livelihoods of a farm family. And this is why we're using it. So instead of seeing it as as a shop, let's say, as an industry or something like that, we are viewing it as a specific case, as a farm, and this is why we're using the farm income as an indicator. So it's we can also make calculations including or excluding the subsidies. I have shown a relevant graph, but this is a different thing. It does not change the definition of financial results.
Yes, so it is clear that into this logic, where farm income is the key thing because it allows farm families to subsist, the subsidies part is quite important because it means a surplus, a little bit more of money or resources to continue living. Another question would be also on these family farm economy approaches, where we speak about labor reproduction. Well, this system may allow families to reproduce, to have childs and born childs and so on. But given that the farm incomes are also small and the cost opportunity of labor is higher than what the farm can give, maybe this is the reason why family child or farm's child don't continue farming, but they go abroad. No, they go away to other activities that are maybe more remunerative. No? So the question of how to continue having labor in the system is quite challenging. And your reflections on new activities, making it more attractive, or allowing newcomers to enter are quite relevant on that.
I think that this is why sometimes we're talking about, the socioeconomic analysis, because the social and the economic dimension of this analysis, especially in the farming sector, are very closely interconnected. So how to attract people? It's not only the income, because I will refer to examples from Greece because they're more relevant and familiar to me. Many people are saying, I have returned to the family farm because I found an income there. It does not come up to the expectations that I have, as a human being, as a social person, but I found an income there and this is okay for me. And then we see the other way around, that many young people are leaving the farm because they want to have a different way of life. Sometimes, sorry, if I have a minute, I will diverge a little from the discussion, because about 1.5 years, we had a very nice seminar here in Greece at the Agricultural University about the role of local breeds in livestock systems. And there was this young person, a master student at the university of around 25 years of age. And what he said was that, okay, the local breeds are good, but local breeds, because they are not improved, they require a lot of labor and do not bring so much income compared to the labor that I'm going to give. So I really want to remain in the farm, but I don't want to live like my father or my grandfather, who was in the farm from early in the morning until late in the evening. I need to have another type of farm, and a breed that can be managed in a more systematic way, to work less hours and to have an equal income. And some people in the room did not like this. Oh, come on, this is not pastoral. You want to abolish what your grandfather was doing. And so here comes the crucial question that I also posed before. Do we need to be strict in terms of pastoralism and maintain a pastoralism that was like 10, 30, or 50 years ago? Or can we accept that the system is evolving, is modernizing, is adapting to new conditions, and is managed by people who have expectations? Sometimes us, as urban dwellers, as people who live in cities, we have expectations from pastoralism to continue to be like in the old photos and do the things that we used to be done some decades ago. And this gives us, a happiness about preserving cultural identities and so on. But in fact, it is about the people. And a system should be appealing to the people that are going to participate there. If it's not appealing, it's going to close.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's totally true. Just for our last question that was posted in the chat by Fuad Elame from Turkey, I think. So he insists again on the net profit calculations, and then he says that even though net profit can be positive or negative, or farm income positive or negative, in your graphs it depends very much on the number of ewes, because you are calculating per ewe. So it is evident in this case that more the ewes you have, more income you will have, or more farm income you will have. And well, this should have a limit because the labor is limiting. I understand, no?
Because I see the question here also. So farm size is I would say the most important criterion when we're doing this kind of analysis. Usually, the economic performance of farms is analyzed based on size. We decided not to use this approach because size is much different across the Mediterranean countries. For Greece, for example, a small farm would be around 250, 200 ewes. In other countries, it would be like 50 or 60, a small farm. So we didn't want to impose this kind of categorization because it wouldn't be applicable to all countries. And also, the second reason why we did not follow this approach was because we wanted to have a more meaningful typology per case study based on a number of criteria, based on the social, the economic conditions, the marketing of the product, also the size. But this is why we kept a different approach in each country, in each case study. And I also see from Elam, this Fuad, the same, he or she has a second question about this. So about the economic performance of farms in Turkey. I am not really sure if we are referring to pastoral farms, because, okay, of course, this is a case study of a specific area around Adana with pastoral people, with women that have a special role in the pastoral production. I am sure that industry is working very well, but here in this case study, we are considering, alternative ways of the valorization of products. However, one of the scopes of this webinar is to collect reflection on how economic performance is related to reality. This is why I provided the combination between results and IBMs. And we are happy to hear the opinions of how to better explain the results.
Okay. Thank you, Thanos.
I think we have a final thing, a final question in the chat from Maria Fernandez Marquez. So evolve is very important. And what about the use of new technologies to monitor the animals in the pastoral systems? Well, one of the things that we are considering is exactly this. Not only the monitoring of the animals, our partners in Slovenia, they did not participate to this activity, but the Pastinova partners in Slovenia are actually testing two of such technologies. The first one is the virtual fences for grazing animals, and the second also relates to the use of sorry, I don't remember the English word, but anyway, about the electronic marking of animals, the e-tags for animals. Yes, I think that these technologies can help a lot in the evolution of the systems, and using this kind of technologies can be an effective way of securing the livelihoods of these farms. If there is not a shepherd, there is an alternative. If there is not a person who wants to work like this, there can be an alternative, a partial substitution from a new system. Also, it is nice, we have been discussing with young people who like new technologies. Having a drone, for example, watching the animals grazing and being able to use it from your phone. It's something that can be appealing for a young person to use and work on that. So we should consider all these kind of options.
Yes, totally true. Also, we have to be realistic in terms of what these technologies can give, but undoubtedly they can give a lot of things. But for example, the virtual fences are still to be adapted to the conditions here in Mediterranean. But I think there will be something that will change the landscape. Maybe there's another question now in the question and answer device by Antonio Franca, and he comments that lately the milk price has raised a lot in Sardinia, just even to 1 euros per liter, which is really high, no? It seems that they are going to earn good money, these people. but there's a volatility because it goes up and then it will be down and so on. So how do you think this volatility could impact the economic performance of the dairyship farm?
I think that volatility is one of the uncertainty, I would say, with volatility is the main challenge. And when I was a student, my late professor, who then was my PhD supervisor, he used to teach us agricultural policy principles. And he said that the problem of agricultural incomes in general is that they fluctuate. It's not that they are low, it's that they fluctuate. This is the problem. So volatility, uncertainty is the worst thing. And uncertainty is something that can lead a lot of people out of the profession. Since pastoral production, but livestock production in general, is very affected by weather, climate conditions, apart from markets, every year there are fluctuations. But I totally agree with Antonello. Also in Greece, we have a lot of ups and downs in prices in the last few years. And this is causing problems in the whole value chain. So also in dairy factories, of course, also for the consumers who are now, we used to buy feta cheese for around 8-9 euros per kilo, and now we buy it for 13 or 14 euros per kilo. This is a huge difference. So if we see it in a, let's say, opportunistic way, farmers will have short-term profits because of higher milk levels, but this cannot guarantee the way in the future. So an abrupt surge of prices, a fall of prices, would be a disaster for the production system. So all these fluctuations are always the worst case scenario for all production systems.
Yeah, and I would add, and it
Thank
is
you,
happening
Thanos.
also here in Spain, that milk prices are rising, so people is having better incomes from their farms, but their problem is still the labor. So they are having more money entering to their pockets, but their problem is that they don't have, they don't find other workers to help them in the day-to-day struggle of the farms. So the labor question is really crucial. Other comments? Maybe Jean-Paul, you can do another comment.
We cannot hear you, Jean-Paul. I don't know why. So you are unmuted, but
Hear you, Jean-Paul. You are muted.
now you're muted. Try to unmute. No, unfortunately, it seems it's not. It seems it's not working. I don't know.
Maybe you can put it in the chat, Jean-Paul.
No, if you can put it in the chat, please. And unless there are other questions, I think this can be the last one because we are off.
Yeah, we are out of time. Yes. Okay. So Jean-Paul, are you going to put the question in the chat because we don't hear you? Doesn't matter.
Antonello.
Yes.
Antonello, may you speak?
Hello, everybody. Sorry, but I cannot turn on my video camera. Sorry for this. I am in the field today, so it's a very strange connection for me. Anyway, I would only say to Thanos, thank you very much for your very precious presentation, and I'm asking you the permission to use this presentation for my contribute to the School of Pastoralism. Means here in Sardinia I have to make some lessons, and I think that this presentation could be very useful to me, particularly in the last slides regarding the father perspective and solutions to the problems. You know, it's very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonello. Thank you so much. Turn on the camera to see the countryside in Sardinia. We want to see what the weather is like, if
I am
possible.
no, I am in the hood.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I am just checking my experimental trial using goat grazing for reducing the fuel biomass in this forest. And there are also some strange trees, white trees, you know, some aeolic system here.
Anto,
Yes,
sei blerrato.
I
Hai lo
also,
sfondo sfocato.
I don't know how to do this now.
we take the idea. It's enough. Okay. The blurry background is not.
It's a very good day today, very
Yeah.
hot, and the goats are just down in the field now.
This is the pastoral domain.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much for this. The visual identity of your case study.
Okay. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Thanos, for this presentation, raising so many questions. We see that socioeconomic analysis is a tool to see things better and to answer to some questions or preconceived ideas we may have on pastoral systems, and we can replace them with doing analysis on this field. But pastoralism also entails many other fields of points of view. So we are going to continue with this Pastinova webinar series, and we will inform you in the next one, exact date. But be prepared on that. We are going to deal with environmental agreements with the case study of the work done by our colleagues in Italy. And well, thank you very much again, and I hope it has been interesting for you. And we hope that you will we will see you in the next occasions. Thank you very much. Thanos, do you want to make a concluding remark?
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patience, staying until the end. Nice seeing you all, and we hope to have you in our activities in the future as well. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I forgot to say also that the materials will be online in the near future, so we will put the presentation in the Pastinova project website. Okay, so it will be accessible for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye,
Have a
everybody.
nice day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Thanos. Bye bye.